Well, hello and welcome to another...
The English Couple.
She'll get it. Hard to do when that is done in post, as they say.
Yeah.
Anyway, today we're not at home.
We're not.
No.
We're not.
We thought we're different. We are at
Beddingham Church.
Beddingham Church, which is very close to Newhaven in East Sussex. We've actually been to do an errand picking up some logs from somebody who's very generously given us some wood, and we thought it was an opportunity, even though the weather outside is totally abysmal.
Absolutely miserable.
Wet and very windy.
Yes.
We've taken sanctuary in a church.
Yes, as we've often done before.
We have, and if you've seen the videos from my main channel, the Richard Voves channel, you'll see that in its past, before all the stuff that I'm doing at the moment, I've visited on my own and with the lovely Julia. We've done loads and loads of church visits and explorations in and around the Sussex area, as well as other places.
And beyond, yes.
And this is a very lovely church. I don't know too much about it, but...
I didn't even spot the name of it.
No, it's probably dedicated to somebody.
Apart from being in Beddingham.
But we just thought it would be a great place to stop off and really indicate what we're hoping to do in the future, as we've said before, about getting out and about and visiting and exploring England and the Wales, Scotland and all of that when we get the opportunity. But also, because it is a church, there's something rather special about churches, and I know they are perhaps a bit forlorn these days and not utilised in the way that...
Once they were a hub of the society, of any community.
Absolutely. The church and, of course, the inn or the tavern or the alehouse, where people would get together and community would bond with one another. And it's nice to see that churches, especially around here, and it's not always the case, the doors are open, even on a wet and windy day, and it is a bit of sanctuary, and you can come... Even if you're not necessarily religious, you can come and just have escape from the mad world.
I mean, I love coming into churches for many reasons, but one of them is that I can walk in and I feel the age of the church, I can feel the years of worship that have gone into it, and the craft and the care as well. It
is amazing how many, life starts in the church, doesn't it, with the christening, the baptisms, and of course the marriages, great institution of marriage, and then of course death and burial.
The funeral. Yeah.
And for centuries this has taken place, and so that's one reason I think that these churches, even if they're not used in the same way today, they've been around for so long. It's so important that we remember them and respect that, because our modern times is still only a fleeting time. You think the 20th and the 21st century compared to the time period before that, generation after generation, going back 2,000 years, when Christianity first came in, and then of course all the different pagan rituals, religions and worships that went on, and very often in the same place. Which does make these places very special for people who live in this country. And of course, church exploration is rather fantastic when you're looking at as you mentioned, the
spiritual.
Well, no, I was thinking of all the craftsmanship that's gone into it. Because where else could you show your art?
Yeah, you're pointing over there to this head on the pillar there. You can't see it.
But
there's some beautiful windows. Again, you can't see them. Maybe we'll get some photos and whack them in.
Yeah.
Maybe.
If
editor Richard wants to.
I used to do all of that, and but it used to take forever. But actually, my batteries are quite low, so we'll see. But anyway, the point of it is that there is a connection. I think there's a connection, even if we are not necessarily religious.
Yeah, quite. I mean, regardless of whether we're religious or not, we've been raised and we are part of a predominantly Christian
tradition,
culture.
Yes.
Even though it's taken on a lot of the pagan things, and some of those paganistic, rituals are coming back out of the woodwork, it seems. Since we did our last video, people have said, "Oh no, it's been pointed out. It's there. It's there. It's there." So it is still there.
But yes, it's the video about the customs and the rituals that we did from that book.
It's just still very, almost secular. Is that a word that suits?
Yeah, I think yes. I mean, people have removed a lot of the religion out of it, and it's now people often follow like Halloween. They follow a practice that's been handed down with no real knowledge of why, and sometimes these have been commercialised, of course, or they've just, at the end of the day, mostly, they're just good fun. And they bond the community, and we continually need to have that sort of thing, whether it's rolling a cheese down a hill and people are running after it, or you're bog snorkeling.
A lot of the old rituals are not just glue for the society and community, but also to kind of bond us with the earth and the seasons, and which is what paganism predominantly worships, if you can say it like that.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, because you were so dependent on
the land, the weather,
land for food, and that's
the length of the day.
And the length of the day determines how much can grow, and the weather, of course, and the sun. And I guess if you go back in time to those more simpler times, and you're perhaps one of those natives of the country, you're going absolutely by the environment around you, which must have seemed as if something else was pulling the strings, that you needed to, bow down and scrape or make sacrifices or dance in a certain way, that the gods would be appeased. And it's fascinating. I think elements of that still in us.
Yeah.
And because you do singing.
Yes,
which is very traditional singing.
Yes, a bit of a choir. It's very much a paganified choir. We sing songs that come from all over the world, essentially, but we like the folky songs. There we go. They're very earthy. It's very much of the earth.
Yes.
And that's partly why I like it. The lyrics all suit me.
And they do them in rounds? Just explain what that means.
Rounds, it's a very loose way of saying it. But essentially, you have a couple of verses or a couple of paragraphs, and you sing them over, and they're harmonised with, you'd separate the group into a few different groups who will have different harmonies, and rounds in the sense of you'll start singing, and then after a certain amount of line, the next group will start, and then the next. So it all weaves in and out.
Like a big wheel, and it can just keep going.
And it is wonderful having these voices, all these voices just weaving in and out of each other. And, I can't explain how...
No, you'd have to sort of see it or be part of it. And I imagine that there's, that sense of vibration in there, and the power of it. And something that's ethereal that you can't put your finger on, which makes it very difficult for us to explain, of course.
Yes, but because we sing in... my favourite place to join them is at Sullington Barn. So it's an old... was it Tithe Barn?
I think
it was a Tithe Barn.
Certainly a manor house barn, isn't it? Because
Absolutely.
it's right next to the manor house and the church, so probably it was an old tithe barn.
Yes, so and so it's got the age, it's got the not only the age of the building, but the age of the trees used to build it.
Yes.
Because they would have been a couple of 100 years old at least when they were used.
And there is a yew tree just round the corner from
That's right,
that is 4,000, 2,000 years old in the churchyard.
But standing in this barn, you can feel its age. You can feel the life and death that has gone and passed through it, and with our living voices vibrating through it, it kind of comes alive.
Yeah.
And then you get the birds in the thatch, in the rafters, in the rafters and stuff, in the roof. And in the summer, for example, they'll kind of sit where they can be seen, and they'll join in.
That's
you
amazing,
can hear them join in.
That is
it's
amazing.
Really, really amazing.
And England is really good for that. Our history, like anywhere in the world, has been around a bit, but our history has been so layered with lots of this kind of thing. Because it's such a small island, and we, the whole of Great Britain, the islands of, it makes it a fascinating place, because nowhere you know, there's almost no place that somebody else has not trod or done something. And so it's so layered with a history.
That's
that
right.
makes it rather special, whereas you can go to other places, you know, like deserts and things where very little has ever happened. But here, of course, the history just oozes out, and the history is made by people, which is what's so vital, really. And I think very often we forget that, and although we have to progress and things improve and life is good, people live longer, they're healthier generally, and they've got more stuff than they ever had, which is debatable whether that's good, bad, or indifferent.
Don't tell me about it. Oh, yeah.
But at the same time, I think people often forget about the sort of the lifeblood of community, of singing and being
The
together.
unification of individuals.
We have in more modern times become more polarised and separated, and life is hard for everybody, but it was hard before, but at least they had the community. They could go to the pubs and they all spoke the same language, they shared the same tradition, the same customs, they understood nuances, they had the same, if they were all anti the squire or they had the same grumbles, I suppose is what I'm saying.
It didn't mean everyone was harmonious.
No, not by any means.
No, so we're not that rose-tinted glasses wearing about the situation,
but there was something that
you can't deny that there's a sense of community that we've lost.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we have a modern version of it, but it just seems so shallow and pale.
Especially when it's all online. I mean, I know we're online. You're watching us as a result of the internet, and so we're able to communicate to people across the world, which we would not have been able to do. And so, of course, there are merits to it.
Absolutely.
But there's also that sort of sense that community has spread through the screen and through the keyboard and not in a real way, which is very sad, I think.
And like you say, it does have its merits, very much so, but I can see how my generation and younger generations can not realise what they've lost in that, if they rely on that kind of community and they don't have a real community behind them. I mean, this I could be completely wrong,
No. Well, I think you're absolutely right, and there's just something about being with real people and in real, good old-fashioned stone buildings like a church. That I just fear for the next generation who, I've got one foot in the analog world and one foot in the modern digital world, but my kids are all in the digital world. They don't really remember those things that you could see how they worked: record players, typewriters, tape recorders, those things that you could see the mechanics. You may not understood it, but you could see the belts going round and the film going through the sprockets, and it had more meaning, I think, than the slab of something that is glass on one side, a bit of plastic on the other, and you just somehow manipulate it with your finger.
Even something so simple as a clock.
Yes.
The
workings
big
of a
clocks,
clock.
you could see the workings of the clock. Now we have these little round things with just a face, which is nice and easy and fair enough and takes no space. But the worst thing is all these digital clocks.
Yeah.
So a lot of, I don't know this, but I feel like a lot of kids, they'll read that. They can't read the analog clock.
Oh, yes, the digital display as opposed to an analog, yeah.
Yes.
My son, Billy, really struggled with the analog with hands, and big hand, the small hand, and knowing that, where he could read it when it was in digital form, which was a bit of a shame.
Yeah.
I'm just going to lean forward so that we haven't overstayed our welcome.
Yeah, I must admit, I did struggle. I was quite late when I learnt to read a clock.
And of course, my generation, because I'm a little older than you, that's all we had. And you did, you went out and you read the sundial. You took it on your wrist and you said, what time is it? Oh, it's 3 o'clock, it's time to go home. Oh no, it's 1. No, of course, we had clocks. In those old days of the Stone Age.
Took a moment for my penny to drop then, because I heard a noise back there. I was like, oh, what was that? Anyway,
so Julia has a channel on YouTube, as you may or may not know. Go and check it out. The link is in the description. And we're thinking of doing a little bit more filming here. You're going to talk about what you're singing and maybe sing something.
Yeah, I was thinking of singing something that I learnt recently.
So do check that out. But we just thought we'd do a quick one in the church today as we're out and about collecting wood to keep warm. So is that about it?
I think that might be it.
Yeah. So
Thank you for joining us.
For joining. Don't forget to subscribe and tell your friends. And who knows where we'll be next time. It's a bit of a surprise for us too.
Yeah, somewhere interesting. Touch wood.
So, from us in Beddingham Church.
Have a lovely, wet, windy day.
Yeah. Bye for now.